Two, and one. On SEO, we believe that this motion is not about how migrating or living abroad is actually good or bad, because this actually depends on how a person views this issue. One might say, uh, sorry, I forgot my timer. Chưa chấm cái timer. Quên không bật lên rồi. Can I redo my speech? Okay. Okay, so yeah. I'm gonna start now. So this motion is never about how migrating or living abroad is actually good or bad, because this depends on how a person views this issue. One might say this is beneficial for a person's development, but others might say this is bad for the countries themselves, because on our side, as closing opposition, we will mainly focus on how the glorification and encouragement of migrating or living abroad will enhance a person's living standard and allow them to strive for better things in life, and how this will actually also increase global competitiveness and allow for a more skilled workforce. So here's how the flow of the speech will be like. First of all, will be a couple of things our side will make clear, and second is rebuttals, and third of all is the main clashes in this debate. So first of all, a few things our side actually want to make clear. This glorification can look really simple and positive. Number one, people who seek for a new life have enough incentives and courage will be encouraged. And people who have the opportunities will also be encouraged. For example, if you are a student who just received a scholarship from another country, then you will be glorified and you will be encouraged to go and study abroad. And this is simply to encourage people to work harder, because really, like, what is so called the American dream is what we're all dreamed of, right? So when people glorify migrating or living abroad as something really nice and really amazing, then people will have more incentives to work harder, and they will have more incentives to make their dreams happen. So therefore, we believe that unrealistic expectations will never happen, since there's no proof of people feeling pressure to migrate just because people around them suggest it. We believe that number one, glorification does not equal misinformation, because individuals themselves, they have enough maturity and they have enough, like, they're smart enough to weigh risk and benefits through shared stories and data, and glorifying success abroad just inspires preparation and realistic planning for them in the future. Both OG and CG suggest the fact that this is unrealistic, and we have just proved to you how this is not unrealistic. They also say a fact about how this is like struggling when you move to another country. It's really struggling, and you will face discrimination, etc. We believe that struggling is a normal part in life, and discrimination happens anywhere, even in your home country. Everything in life is actually struggling, and how can actually closing government, they make sure that they are not going to struggle in their home countries themselves. So secondly, a couple of questions for the proposition bench to consider. Number one, we ask proposition is that how not glorifying this, discouraging people to migrate or to live abroad will really help with economic development and benefits the people's standard of living. And number two, how this will not limit people's opportunity to like study abroad or to move to another countries if they have the freedom to. And number three, how do people who strive for the better get more opportunities in their home countries? Because the proposition bench keep on saying is that how if you move to other countries, you'll be discriminated and you will receive low-wage jobs. But what about in their home countries? What is their alternatives to those people living in developing countries? And so, secondly, coming to the rebuttals and clashes, we believe that there are actually three main clashes in this debate. And the first of all is about cultural saving. Second is how this will benefit the people. And third of all, how this benefits the developing countries. Like, what is developing countries' role in this debate? So, coming to the first clash on cultural saving, and like literally proposition bench mentioned about this. So first of all, for OG, we believe that moving, like they say that people will face barriers when migrating. They will face like language barriers, discrimination, etc. But this is false, since when people make a decision to migrate, there's so many factors to consider, such as financial incentives, what they will do once they move there, how will they survive, and will this be long term. They won't just migrate there just because people say this is good for them. For instance, For example, going on a diet or being a vegetarian is good, but not everyone follows this because of personal factors. And they also say that there will be loss of culture in the nation. This is really unlikely because OG can't just say that every single migrant or student studying abroad are those who disrespect their countries or lost their identity. Just because you move to other countries doesn't mean you'll forget about your own country altogether. Instead, people's culture can even gain global recognition abroad since they're the one who preserved their country and they still move to other countries. CG mentioned that sometimes people do not have enough financial incentives to move back to their home country. We believe that this is not really a big problem, since even if when people do not have incentives to move back to their countries, they can still remember their countries no matter what. You don't have to go back to their countries to show that you remember your country. There's so many ways for you to preserve your countries, like through social media or through like advertising, etc. And secondly is the second clash is on how this benefits the citizens. So OG, they mentioned that brain drain will happen in developing countries. Well, we asked OG several questions. Will those skilled workers receive the same opportunity like they do overseas? Because they say that when they move to other countries, like for example, skilled workers like doctors or scientists they move to other countries, then like this will result in brain drain. But what will those home countries do? Will those skilled workers receive the same opportunity like they do overseas? This will actually limit their freedom on where to live and where to work. And secondly, will their talent be used effectively in their home country? Because as like from the framing and like from the framing from OG, they make it pretty obvious that developing countries are poor and people they move there because they think their life will be better. So how will their talent be used effectively in their home countries? And besides, we believe the role of government is to encourage their citizens to strive for the better and gain more experiences rather than discourage them to stay in their home country. We say that not every single developing country is immensely poor, and this is true for a couple of countries. For CG, they say that migrants will end up in low paying jobs, low living standard. Again, we say that this is the life they already choose for themselves because there are many factors considering their financial incentives and like long term perspective. Even if this is being glorified, then they still need to consider lots of factors. And they also mention on and on again about how brain drain will happen and they'll be struggling and unrealistic expectations, which all of those we have rebutted before. And why is our side better from all the other sides? We believe that our side is the only side who actually cares about the people because we see that people have the freedom to choose where to live and where to work. And by glorifying migrating or living abroad, we're actually encouraging people to work harder to achieve their dreams like they always wanted to. For example, everyone wants to study abroad or everyone wants to travel abroad. So if we glorify this, people will have more incentives from this glorification. So overall, very proud to oppose.